Hello, everyone. I am Storyteller. Thank you for visiting this peaceful place. I know you are looking for something soothing to help you fall asleep, and I am here to accompany you. If you enjoy, please give me a like and subscribe, and let me know where you are from. Thank you. The sculptor of Lyon. Jacques heard someone enter his fifth-floor studio, heard the heavy groan of the old wood door, heard the tired thing thunder back into place, slamming with a finality that said no more. And it was the only thing that stopped him from pitching forward from his balcony into the street below. Rich heels snapped against the scuffed parquet floor, and the boards underneath strained against the weight of every step the stranger took. "Hello?" came a man's voice. Jacques relit his cigarette for the fourth time and looked out over Lyon. His studio was the top floor of a tower, sitting in the crook of the Saône, and he had a lovely view of the Pont de la Feuillée. They still called it the New Bridge, even though it had been reconstructed nearly a decade ago, in 1841. He could just see one of his lions from this angle, a stoic beast carved of marble, watching over the people of the city as they crossed the bridge. One of his first commissions. "Hello?" came the man's voice again. It was curious but calm, familiar but unrecognizable, a voice that tugged at his memories and hid at the corner of his eye. Jacques huffed. If he should fall from his balcony, he'd tumble 5 floors and strike the cobble below. With luck, head first. But it would leave a mess for his landlady. And besides, he had company. Ah, but the Pont de la Feuillée. If he snuck out at night, he might throw himself to the mercy of the Saône and let it wash away the grayness of his life. "Hello? Jacques? Out here." He flicked the last of his cigarette over the railing. On the balcony, the steps drew close, and only once Jacques felt the presence of another beside him did he turn. And Jacques, startled, beside him stood a man dressed head to toe in rich reds and blacks, accented with gold buttons and chains and jewelry. His boots were buckled with gold. His hands were covered in black satin gloves, and upon his head sat a broad-rimmed hat with a white feather in the band. The clothes screamed wealth, if not style, though perhaps they whispered a style to come. "Monsieur Desrosiers." Jacques cleared his throat. "Pardon me, sir, but I was not expecting you." "No matter." Monsieur Desrosiers smiled and patted Jacques on the shoulder. "I've come to take a look on my commission." Something cold shifted in Jacques' bowels. The commission. It was the one thing he didn't want to think about, and the one thing he couldn't stop thinking about. It was beautiful. It was hideous. And for better and worse, it was the only thing that kept him alive. If it hadn't been for the chance encounter with Monsieur Desrosiers 3 months ago on a moonless, foggy night, when Jacques planned to get well drunk and then to go looking for trouble, whether in the dark alleys of Lyon, or in the waters of the Saône, or by means of the loaded pistol he kept in his pocket, he might finally have been done with it all. But when they ran into each other just outside Fournier's, Monsieur Desrosiers insisted they enter the bar and share wine. And when Jacques told him of his misery, of his heartache, of giving up, Monsieur Desrosiers insisted further. "I can't do it anymore," Jacques said. "Every breath I draw is torture. All I want is to hold her again, to feel her skin against mine. There's no greater pain than that of the heart," said Monsieur Desrosiers. "But this is the well from which we draw art. Tell me, what do you intend to do with the piece?" "I don't know. I will smash it." "Impossible," Monsieur Desrosiers said. There was no alarm in his voice, just a statement of fact. "I'll not hear another word. I'm commissioning you to finish it." And the price he offered, coupled with the wine, was not something Jacques could refuse. Jacques lit another cigarette. "This way, sir." He took his patron to his workshop, a dusty place filled with statuettes, busts, blocks of various stones, and wooden frames, a place dominated by a column of a man's height, covered by a white cloth that promised severe edges. A stool sat before it, and hammers and chisels littered the floor, scattered like afterthoughts. "Show me," said Monsieur Desrosiers, circling the covered statue. "It's not finished. It cannot possibly be finished. Art never is. Reveal it. It's grotesque. A cruel mockery. Impossible. Your hands are magical. They sing to the stone. Come, do not keep me waiting." Jacques tarried only a moment longer, and then listlessly he pulled at the cloth. There was a radiant guile. "Marvelous," said Monsieur Desrosiers. "She's simply magnificent." He touched the cold marble, placed his hands on the midriff, ran his palm up the perfectly smooth abdomen, cupped an ice-cold breast. Jacques felt his throat harden. Said Monsieur Desrosiers, his thumb and forefinger cradling a nipple. "Such attention to detail. So like the real thing." His hand slid to the abdomen again, and then began sliding lower, following her contours, following the map of her muscles and flesh. Lower, ever lower. "Sir." Jacques grabbed the other's hand. "Sir, please. It's unfinished. Very delicate." Monsieur Desrosiers locked eyes with him for just a moment, but then a wide grin bloomed on his face. Of course. How boorish of me to interfere with the genesis of art. But I tell you, you have made an exquisite piece here. It's so like life." Jacques felt the cold in his guts roil. He beheld the work that consumed him, the statue of Camille, the torso of Camille, rather. She stood on the stumps of her hips, and she had no arms. Neither had he been able to bring himself to carving her head, her precious face. Not yet. Not ever, perhaps, but lifelike? Yes, Jacques had to admit that was true. He knew the map of her. His fingers had traced her every path, and he'd drunk deeply of her, gotten lost in her shallows. He couldn't count the nights they'd spent in soft embrace, or the fervent daylight moments they'd stolen together. There was no greater love, he knew, and she was forevermore his heart. It was Monsieur Desrosiers that had introduced them. And Monsieur Desrosiers, his enigmatic patron, the man who discovered Jacques, who secured his first commissions and helped him build a name for himself. The man convinced of magic hands, convinced that there was nothing they could not sculpt. The man who knew very well what he was doing when he brought Jacques and Camille together, and then left them alone. Ah, but this cold, dead stone, it merely looked like Camille once, looked like her before her death, before her murder. It was hard and unyielding, and had none of the vibrant warmth of the real thing, of his muse. This was a horrid effigy, and no more. You have outdone yourself, Monsieur Desrosiers said. Truly, your work honors my niece. It's unfinished, Jacques whispered. I have a hunch it soon will be. I've a sense for these things, as you know. No magic hands myself, but a sense about art, yes. Now come, we will celebrate your progress and looming breakthrough. Monsieur Desrosiers brought libations. They started with wine and moved on to absinthe, and all the while, Monsieur Desrosiers talked about his views on art, and how through it, he firmly believed, man could pierce the veil through force of will alone, he said, to create, like God. Jacques' vision swam, but Monsieur Desrosiers seemed cogent, no matter how much he downed. But the conditions must be right. We must truly want it, as only the empty heart of the artist wants. Soon, Monsieur Desrosiers said, you are my most prized sculptor in all of my stables. Soon you will prevail. I don't doubt it. Now, I leave you to it. Jacques finished what remained of the bottles after his guest departed, deep in the black of night. The man was strange, and always appeared at just the right time, or just the wrong time. It was M. Desrosiers that introduced him to Camille, and then later introduced him to the news of her death. It was he that found her, strangled, they said, among the rose bushes on the family estate. The murderer never found. It was he. Jacques didn't know if it was he. M. Desrosiers was the last to see her alive. That didn't mean anything. Besides, it was disrespectful to harbor such suspicions about the man who funded him. Besides, it was too terrible to consider if Monsieur Desrosiers had played a role. If instead of doing something about it, Jacques had merely taken those funds. Jacques downed the rest of the absinthe and settled into fitful, fanciful dreams. In his mind, Camille came back to him. He embraced her statue, and in the moonlight, she turned into his lost love. They danced through the night and laughed, and he twirled her faster and faster. 1,000 questions filled his mind. How had she returned? What was the other side like? Did she still love him? Did she know he still loved her? But all were strangled by his pressing need to hold her, to have her. They loved like it was their last day, their first day, their only day. And he fell asleep in her embrace, tangled in sheets, feeling the warmth of her touch once more. By morning, that touch had grown cold. He awoke to a piercing headache and found himself draped over the unfinished statue, the headless, faceless cadaver, the armless and legless corpse, the pale imitation of a woman whose voice he could barely remember, whose touch he craved more than breath itself. Cold, 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 but soft. He gripped her shoulder and found his fingers sank into the marble, deformed it like skin. Gray skin, pallid skin, and webbed with dark veins, nearly black. He rose to sit, tried to lift her, and found she bent backwards, as though she had a spine, as though she were flesh. Dead flesh. Jacques recoiled, swore. What was this? He wondered. Was this the drink? Had his mind finally broken? That was when he noticed himself sinking into his bed, his sheets, bunched in his tightly closed fist, had themselves grown soft and veiny, and covered in irregular tufts of hair. And the bed, a large slab of fibrous meat, heaved under his weight. His other hand sunk into it, and something cracked. He pierced the surface, exposing a shattered, brittle bone and a gush of foul blood. Jacques screamed. The bed heaved under him as he leapt to the floor, and the parquet beneath his feet turned almost at once into a meshwork of impossible fingers, too long and too short, with too many joints, fused at all angles, all writhing and snapping and cracking under his panicked retreat. Every tool he touched turned into a shivering mass of malformed bone and sinew, screaming of wrongness, and every wall he stumbled into blossomed into a rippling bruise, a labyrinthine organ, a tortured thing filled with fluids. The air in his studio grew hot and moist, and blood and other things dribbled from 1,000 open sores. His shrieking unending, he charged for his door and the stairway beyond. But no sooner had he placed his hands on the heavy wood than it cracked into a wee of ribs, hiding a colossal, misshapen heart of dozens of chambers, each beating a deafening drum and spurting gore everywhere. Jacques turned and fled for his balcony. Too late. The balcony itself became a broad, lolling tongue which rolled back and kept him inside, and thousands of jagged, splintered teeth erupted from both the ceiling and the floor. The whole tower shuddered, ground against itself, writhed in fury and meaningless pain, and collapsed under its own weight. It pitched forward and splattered into the Saône with a finality that said, "No more do flamethrowers belong in the library. We lose people all the time. It's just the nature of the job. What can you expect from a place full of nooks and crannies? People intentionally go to get lost in. I usually don't worry when I don't see someone for a while. But when it's been days since someone's checked out, it's usually a sign that I need to step in. I'm not doing this alone, thankfully. No librarian is ever truly alone, are they? I have help from the watchers and listeners of the shelves. Thanks to them, it usually doesn't take long to get the scent, if you know what I mean. However, today is one of the rare and unfortunate exceptions when my search has exceeded more than an hour, and an hour is pushing it. I've been searching and asking around for almost 6 hours, scouring shelves and listening for the telltale breathing. The watchers have their quadrants, so it's much like playing hot and cold. Bad news, one says, and my brain shivers in my skull, both from its existence and its statement. They crossed the tape, says the watcher, and I groan. Are you sure? My stomach still drops at the thought, even though I've been doing this a very long time. Long enough that I remember every book on every shelf better than my own child's face. But knowing a poor soul lost themselves beyond the tape, I grieve for them. The watcher doesn't speak, but generates an affirmative sensation. That means I have to backtrack to my desk for supplies. I thank them, asking that they send word ahead of my arrival. It's been a while since I've had to go past the tape, which means it's been a while since I entered the broom closet. The helmet is dusty. It looks almost like it's from one of those old-fashioned scuba diving suits. It's not nearly so heavy, though. There's a bright lamp affixed to the front just above the visor, but it's as much of a hindrance as a help. While most of the time, those beyond the tape know not to bother me, some still get bored enough to try, and the lamp acts like a beacon. I don't blame them. It's what prisoners do. Find the weakest among them and test their mettle. I've got a sack full of unperishables, tinctures, aspirin, and a compass. Not like the kind you're used to, but would take too long to explain. And time is of the essence, so I'll let your imagination handle it from here. I sling the sack across my body and fasten my waist with a utility belt that would make a trust fund bat character with abandonment issues jealous. It's got floss, lighters, matches, and a few more tools that don't exist outside of the library. The last thing I grab is the flamethrower. This is where I should be very transparent with you. I'm not actually the librarian. I'm the librarian's assistant. I know, isn't that just your luck, right? Not to worry. I'm very good at using this thing, and it does the job nicely. Whatever job I may deem necessary at any particular moment. But the head librarian doesn't really need much of anything to ward off what lingers here. I don't know exactly where he is at the moment, nor do I want to know. If this were a real pickle, I would summon him. But while a rare occasion, it's not unusual in the scope of 1,000 years. After all, no one comes here without the intention, whether it's conscious or subconscious, to get lost. It's the nature of this place. But you know that, don't you? It's why you're here, after all. It doesn't take me long to find the tape, which is fortuitous. Sometimes it moves around, but the watchers and listeners kept a beat on it this time, so as to direct me. Yes, it is really dark. Yes, it's literal tape. Hazard tape. But that's almost like a beacon to the adventurous, isn't it? I think the library knows that. It's greedy, but it's also quite discerning in taste. In some circles, that means that I should extend congratulations to you. In others, I offer my sincerest sympathy. I hear my name and ignore it as I crawl through the crisscross of reflective strips. The tape moves not at random, by the way. It genuinely serves as a warning, whether it's gatekeeping sections currently under construction, in repair, or missing. I try not to, but I think that last one has something to do with where the head librarian went. Don't worry about it. My name is not important, so ineffectual that I've forgotten. I hear my name again as I begrudgingly turn on the lamp. Not a lot of help, just enough light to ensure I don't trip over anything or disturb the shelves. Many sleep here. I send off a warning shot from the flamethrower, showing I carry more light than just atop my appetizing head. The flash of flames sends things slithering. But most of those this close to the tape have never been very convicted by nature, so I'm not concerned. There are more listeners and less watchers past the tape, for obvious reasons. Thankfully, they say I don't have to go too far. I look down at the telling clicking sound to see rocks rolling. Some as big as my foot, and some as small as the tip of my thumb. The smaller ones move more easily, but all are rolling as if pulled toward a central point. I don't even need the compass, but I glance down at it one more time before stuffing it back into the sack. While I don't have to go too far, things are relative here. 10 steps may be 10,000. And so, even after only a few moments of exploring, I feel acute pressure jamming into my temples. My heart feels like it's being squeezed, and my vision blurs. My fingers tingle by the time I'm able to shake the aspirin into my mouth. I chew it, ignoring the sound of my name, my true name, the one only I can hear. You'll hear your own as well, if you stay here long enough. My vision clears, which just means the dark looks sharper, and I sweep another warning arc from the flamethrower for good measure. I do this as much because I love the sound as for protection. I also appreciate the warmth. It gets cold here, but in a strange way, which shouldn't surprise you at this point. It's cold, like how the first signs of spring show in the early morning dew that's only just melted. I can smell and taste the sweat on my upper lip. And it's cold, and then I hear it. A few or 1,000 steps later, the breathing sound I've been listening for. The pace of the rocks quickens, and my head is turned down, so the helmet light prevents me from tripping over or impeding their journey. A famous author once said, "All things serve the beam." And that's as true in this world as it is in the others. Except this beam, this beacon, is attached to our lost visitor. I can only hear the rocks, mumblings, and the breathing sound now. The smell is so musty and thick, like the air is full of sweat and dust, like I've stuck my head out the window during a heavily falling rain. If I think hard enough about it, soon I'll be drenched, so I don't. While the rocks are almost the perfect tell, and the listeners too corroborates the evidence, you can never be too sure. Only light can be sure. I take a match from the tiny box, snap it to life, and then blow it out. Tiny smoke tendrils curl and waft until they also follow the same flow as the rocks. Excellent. We've not been led astray. A few or 1,000 more steps, and the rocks are gathering down an aisle where the breathing is more like wheezing, like the desperate struggle to take in. Lo and behold, we found them. Poor thing, judging by the state of her, she got lost early. She's likely been here for most of the day. The book covers her face, consuming her head like a kid on a particularly large popsicle. The pages flutter gently against her too white jaw. The papery quality of her skin and the wanting muscle mass show how little time was on our side. Not a moment to waste. I grab the book by the edges of both back and front covers. It's got most of her head inside at this point. Just her earlobes, hair, and edge of her jaw peek out from beneath the pages I now grip firmly. The wheezing turns into a moan that turns into a sob. Now, I say, and test the hold the book has on its victim. It's snug, too snug to yank like a leech. I need to treat it like a tick, making sure to get the head out. None of these are intended as puns, but it just happens after being surrounded by books and prose for so long. I draw one of the tiny vials strapped in my utility belt and pull the cork out. It smells like nothing to me, but I see the reaction immediately. Our half-consumed explorer moves a bit, her fingers mostly, and I hear a second, tinier moan beneath that of the books. I pour a small amount of the substance into the palm of my hand, and I smooth it gently down the spine of the book. It wails again, and so does the girl, both full of sorrow and reluctance. I feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, so I turn at the hip, cock the flamethrower, and send off a very intentionally long tail of flames. When the feeling subsides, I shrug the weapon back over my shoulder. I use the backs of 2 knuckles to knock gently on the book cover. It's time to come back now. My apologies, I say, and I mean it. The book and the girl moan again, more hollowly, and I can feel the seal, the bond, splitting like a seam. I grip the book again, because these two are stubborn and have to pry them apart. The color and mass return beneath her skin, and though her eyes are open, they can't see anything. She'll be like that for a while. It's normal. She'll recover. I pour the remaining contents of the bottle down the part of her frazzled blonde hair. Tears fill the empty eyes and drip down her face. Her mouth presses into a thin white line and grimaces so intensely that the flesh folds in multiple layers at the corners of her mouth. Great pain. Even after 1,000 years, I still can't help but feel sorry. So I pull her burning head under my chin and rub circles into her back. I'm sorry, dear. I know you've been told otherwise, but this place is a prison, and that isn't your story. Yours is still being written, and the one which made you pretty promises is lying and jealous. One day, you, if the world is cruel, may yet have a place here. But it's not today. So let's go have a cup of tea, I tell her, as I've told many like her. I've gotten better at it over the years. I used to have to fight with them. Often, I'd give up and just keep them safe until the head librarian got back to talk them down. She finally lets out a weak, wheezing breath. I take advantage of the broken seam of her lips and pour a tincture down her throat. I don't even have to look anymore. I can just feel the specific melodies that make each tincture different. It helps that the one I need usually sings a bit louder as a courtesy, and it'll purr like a cat when I've touched my fingers to it. She chokes a bit, but her eyes start to clear. Good enough for now. The back of my neck has another sudden influx of goosebumps. We've overstayed our welcome. It's time to go. I put the book back on the shelf. I don't scold it, just allow its ache and frustration flow through me. I apologize, but there's no comfort I can give. My words and compassion are meaningless. I've noted the volume and will tell the head librarian. They might be able to soothe it back to sleep. I tap the metal bauble around my neck, and we're back at my desk. I drape the girl onto a nearby love seat that's seen better days, starting the kettle before heading to the broom closet to stash the emergency kit. She'll be fine. People like her, and you, always are. This place was made to help the wanderers, and recklessly imaginative. Those who can't wrap their heads around the world the way it is, and can see the truth of magic between heartbeats and heartbreaks. And people like me and the head librarian, when they so choose to grace us with their presence, keep the place orderly and open for you. And we're here to help guide you back on track if you lose inspiration for your own story. It's the nature of the job, the library itself. What else can you expect from a place full of nooks and crannies that people choose to get lost in? My brain through your brain was an optimist, and so, naturally, was the thing that lived in her brain. She awoke one Tuesday morning to discover the change. At first, it was merely a mental echo, barely perceptible. Two indistinguishable minds, one off by a fraction of a second. For Katie's every thought, there was an echo, trailing just behind. Over the day, the new brain drifted further out of sync, and soon she could hear its thoughts, almost identical to hers, but distinct. Eventually, they started talking. "Who are you?" Katie asked. "Katie Singleton," the voice said from inside her head. "That's me." "You're new in there." "I guess so," the voice said. "Sorry." "Don't be sorry." Katie was an over-apologizer, too. "What should I call you?" "It's hard to get past Katie," the voice said. "How about Princess Penelope?" Katie asked. It was the name she'd given her imaginary friend when she was an 8-year-old princess junkie. Princess Penelope had filled a void. Playmate, partner in mischief. The sister she never had. The voice was as thrilled as Katie was. It remembered the same childhood. "I love it," she said. "I feel so fabulous. I'm Princess Penelope." Katie wondered what her therapist would have to say about all this, but decided to just go with it. It was nice to have someone like-minded to talk to. They quizzed each other as Katie waited for the morning train, phone held to her ear so onlookers would think there was a real person on the other end of the conversation. "Favorite color?" Princess Penelope asked. "Turquoise," they said together. "Turquoise." "Movie?" Katie asked. "Eternal Sunshine," they replied simultaneously. "Eternal Sunshine." "Guilty pleasure food?" "Rocky Road," Katie said, as Princess Penelope replied, "Raw meat." Katie paused, puzzled. It was the first discordant note of their friendship. The train arrived, and they got on. Together, of course. "You seem distant," Noah said. It was Sunday morning. They were burrowed under covers, hiding from the daylight. "Just like eternal sunshine," Princess Penelope noted. Katie had thought the same thing. She smiled. It was like having a sister, twin. Noah waited for a response. "See?" he said. "You're somewhere else." Katie had felt disconnected from Noah well before the appearance of her invisible friend. Their relationship was stagnant, all unhealthy patterns. She pretended to laugh at his jokes. He feigned interest in her plans. "So, what is it?" He seemed more annoyed than concerned. When she moved to the city to be with him, everyone said that she was moving too fast, that it was a bad idea. In time, Katie realized that they were right. She and Noah didn't really know each other, didn't even like each other. "Did you meet someone?" She traced the line of his jaw with her index finger. Gently. "Can't we just be quiet together?" she asked. Noah sighed, but pulled her close anyway. "I'd love for us to tell him," Princess Penelope said, "but he'd never understand." At the market for dish soap, Katie became distracted by the meat aisle. She settled on a pound of ground chuck, leanest she could find, 98% fat-free. It made her feel less guilty about the purchase. "It's okay," said Princess Penelope. "You know, pregnant women also crave protein." Katie didn't see the relevance, but didn't argue. The woman at checkout eyed her suspiciously. Katie wondered if there was something in their demeanor that called attention to them. "Are our eyes twitching?" Katie asked Princess Penelope aloud. "Excuse me?" the woman behind the counter responded. Katie quickly took her bag and went to the alley out back. By the dumpsters, she tore through the plastic wrap and pulled out handfuls of ground beef, squished it between her hands, into her mouth. Her teeth released saturated blood from spongy tissue to drip down her throat. Princess Penelope almost cried inside her, and Katie felt sustained in a way that was new to her, supercharged. "Oh, God." She buried her face in the package of meat, gobbling like a starved mutt, sucking down every stray drop of juice until her tongue lapped against the styrofoam backing. "Oh, God. What are you?" Katie asked. Noah slept in the bedroom. They'd barely spoken that evening. When she came in from work, he told her she looked sick. It was true. She'd examined herself in the bathroom mirror, cheeks hollowed from lost weight, bags under her eyes, dark as bruises, thinning hair, chapped lips, sores. Still, his words hurt her feelings. Princess Penelope's, too. Now Katie sat on the couch, streaming shows she'd already seen. A shield of noise so Noah wouldn't hear her talking. "I don't know," Princess Penelope answered. "A figment of my imagination? Some part of my brain? I don't think so," Princess Penelope said. "I exist. I'm not a stray thought, or a ghost, or anything like that. But what do you look like? I can't tell. I only see my brain. Through your brain, if that makes sense." "It does," Katie said. "I think there's something you saw, or maybe read. A clue. I'm going to look." Princess Penelope could find memories Katie had lost. It was a wonderful secret shared between them. Her internal friend could call up, with perfect clarity, forgotten birthday parties, replay, word for word, conversations with friends who'd moved away, recover romantic feelings for Noah from those blissful first months when he'd been her lifeline in an unfriendly new city, rescue her mother's smile when she'd been happy, her father's when he'd been alive. "Let me know if you figure it out," Katie said. Princess Penelope went quiet while she searched, and Katie felt lonelier than ever. Shows replayed in front of her, and she didn't bother clicking yes when the "still watching" prompt appeared. She fell asleep sitting up. No transition. Her brain just clicked off like a light. "Wake up," Princess Penelope said. Katie opened her eyes. She stood in the bedroom, facing a wall. "What's going on?" she asked. "Don't be mad," Princess Penelope said. "What happened?" Katie willed herself to turn from the wall and realized that she couldn't. Princess Penelope was in control. "I won't be mad," Katie said. "Just show me." "In a minute," Princess Penelope said through their mouth. Now she was the one using it. "I realized what it was. You saw a video in high school, science class. The zombie wasp. It played in their head. National Geographic. Wasp larvae take over a caterpillar while feeding on it from the inside, directing it to gorge itself until they're ready to eat their way out." "You're a wasp?" Katie asked. "Something smaller, I think," Princess Penelope said. "But the same idea. Some kind of bug, maybe." "A bug?" Crawling around inside her skull. It was too unsettling. Like an itch you could never hope to scratch. "I know," said Princess Penelope. "It's icky." Again, Katie tried to turn her head. Nothing. The muscles of her body were completely disconnected from her thoughts. "Show me what happened," Katie pleaded. Their head tilted down, and Katie saw their hands, covered to elbows in blood. The rest of it. "Please." They turned from the wall, and Katie saw it. Bedspread spattered red. Hammer slathered in gristle. Flesh and bone chips. Tools. Kitchen utensils. Noah disassembled. Chest slashed. Innard strewn. Organs in a pile. Some half-eaten. Sightless eyes staring. Head cracked open. Skull emptied. "I realized what I was really craving," Princess Penelope said. "I didn't want to wake you, but it was delicious. You have no idea." Katie saw everything. Her degraded face in the mirror. Aches all over. New ones every day. The way the light from the bedside lamp now gave her headaches. That sour smell she didn't recognize on her own breath. "I'm the caterpillar." "I think so, Katie," Princess Penelope said with real sympathy. "But I'll go on. Don't know if it helps, but your memories will live in me." Katie felt herself cry, but no tears came. She imagined them falling inwardly, pooling in her steadily shrinking chamber within the brain that had once been hers. I'm so sorry, sweetie. Let's get ice cream. Rocky Road? It was a nice thought. Princess Penelope knew her so well. Vanish. I tried to be gentle. I tried to come to you slowly, revealing myself in fragments under the growing dimness of dusk. I stepped ever so carefully into the downward cast of the yellow street lamp's sepia light, sending forth first a finger, then a tentative but eager to caress hand. I moved so gently, so slowly, that I felt the cloak of darkness removed from my face, inch by inch, nose first, before there was no more hiding. I did this for you, as not to startle you. Didn't you see? I even smiled. Those sparks of kindness you all boast so easily, like the one you'd given me. And yet, you still screamed, shrieked even. A shrill shriek of survival, one of horror and fear, as if the very sight of me would be your upending. And how you ran, just took off, as if the wind came and swept you away, leaving no blame for yourself. I offered you my most sincere attempt at kindness, an approach akin to that of a person who wishes to greet a cute puppy. And how was it that you repaid me? Screaming and running away. Could you see how that would have made me angry? Do you understand why I had to do what I've done? All I'd ever wanted was to be with you, to be more like you. I just wanted to learn from you. If not for your outburst, things could have been different. I thought maybe you were different. I'd wanted you to be different. I'd hoped that you would be the one to accept me, welcome me, and show me what it was like to be like you. A glowing firefly in the night, leading me out of my solemn and lonely abyss. I thought you would be unlike the others, who'd taken one look at me and condemned me to hell with a snarl, thrusting a spear of fear between us like a barrier. Me and them, water and oil. Two things that could never mix. I'd hoped you'd be different. I hoped it with all the blood pumping in my chest. I thought you would see how much I'd longed for us to mix, and how much I'd dreamt of the opening of your arms wide, like I'd watched you do to so many others around you. Even that bowling ball of a man I saw you squishing faces with, his arms barely able to stretch around his own belly to wrap around you as you rocked slowly together behind your bedroom window. It was such a wonder to me how he was not greeted as I was, what with the cruel things I'd seen him doing. I'd wondered how the fear would gleam in your eyes once you'd finally learned the truth about the man you let stay in your bed. All those dirty and lustful glances he'd given the children at the park when you were not around, telling you he had late meetings so he could take the long way and feed his devilish desires, window shopping the younglings as they played. Yet, you did not look at him as the foul and disgusting monster he was. Instead, it was I with whom you'd shown such disgust and foulness, a violent terror shooting through those eyes at my unveiling this evening. You were certainly not how I'd hoped you would be. You were just like the others, who saw my burned and battered face, the scarred and charred mask of skin I'd been forced to present. I saw the judgment glinting between your lashes, just like the rest of them. Monster, they'd called me, without even giving me a chance, without even a hello or a flicker of pity. Even that I would have understood, maybe even welcomed. Perhaps that was what I'd been missing. A sympathizing and tender outreach. A compassionate soul there to guide me towards the light. After all, darkness was all I had ever known, all I had ever seen, save for the blinding blaze of the flames my mother tossed me into, spouting about how I'd belonged in hell for devouring my twin brother before he'd had a chance. I'd heard people say, there is darkness in all of us. Perhaps I'd consumed all of my brother's when I took his life for my own. Perhaps we would have been all right if he'd not vanished before his first breath. Though perhaps not. What with the mother we had, he'd gotten the better end of the deal, I'd supposed. And what had mother expected? She, the tree. I, the apple. For years, I tried to be a good person. I tried to be anything but the sum of my scars. Tried to make friends. Tried to reach out. But you tell me how much of it one can take before he breaks. 1 year? 5 years? A decade? Try 3 decades. 30 years. Monster. You hear it enough. You start to believe it. No one gave me a chance. No one gave me the time of day. Just gruesome looks and disdained scowls. No hello nods passing on the streets or returned waves. No pleases and thank yous at the shops. Just flashes of fear and short silent submissions. Anything to end our interactions quickly. People saw me and saw a monster. So, I'd said, a monster? That's what you want? That's what you get. I'd decided I'd become the very thing deserving of those unpleasant greetings. I'd become the thing people always feared to be true, hiding away, seeking comfort in darkness, making nightmares a reality. What freedom, what relief to finally surrender to myself. Mother would have been proud, I'd thought, though I never did lift the pillow to find out, as she wiggled and writhed beneath my arms. Just a couple of minutes, Mother. You'll see your son soon. Even then, I wasn't convinced I was monstrous enough for her. After all, I'd done her a favor. Her death, my first, was much gentler than the ones who'd followed. The kindness I'd shown my mother was perhaps the last bit that existed in my body. Or, so I'd thought. The day that I met you enlivened a remaining ember I hadn't realized was still burning. There was a weak and muted flicker of something other than darkness that remained somewhere deep inside me, somewhere you were able to touch. Do you remember? That day at the coffee shop, your purple polka dot headband tied primly in a bow, your hair pulled back into a high bun with just a few curly strays dancing around the edges of your cheeks. How you'd actually smiled at me before asking for my order, and then how you'd thanked me once I'd paid, wishing me a good day. There was no grimace in your manner, no hesitation at my mutilated face. You were so pretty, so kind. Not like my mother, not like any of the others. How had I gone so many years without this perfect human? That is the most profound thing about darkness. Even a flash of light is enough to change the entire atmosphere. You were that light. So there was still goodness in the world. There was still hope for me, past be damned. You showed me that, and so I'd followed you home that day, and many of the days since then. I watched you. I protected you, like the rarity that you were. I tried to preserve your kindness, study it, waiting in the shadows for our next encounter. And when I'd discovered there was already a man in your life, I'd followed him too. I had to make sure you were safe, that no one was threatening your goodness, as if your light was already spreading to me, the way fire always does. I cared for you by taking care of him. There was no room for a pedophile in your life. He was a threat to you, a rapid of white waters sure to extinguish you. I couldn't let that happen, but after he was gone, you disappeared. The next day, when I went into the coffee house, hoping to see you, expecting to see you, sparkling with relief and joy, for finally you were free. I did that. I'd envisioned it many times, me waltzing into your shop, you ready with open arms to thank me. Me, your savior. You, my savior. But you were not there. Then, or the next day, or the next. Where were you? I watched outside your house, the lights going on in the morning, then off as the evening turned to night. But you did not leave. You'd disappeared in plain sight, left me alone, locked yourself up in your house, as if freedom meant absolutely nothing to you. Had it been one more day out there waiting, I'll admit, I'm not sure I could have forgiven you for such ingratitude. So, you can imagine my delight when you stepped out for a walk this evening, the horizon still bleeding its last drops into the twilight, like a sign. You, my last dash of hope. Monster, they'd called me. They, but not you. So, why then did you scream? Why such a vile and repulsive response at the sight of me as I stepped out into the light to greet you? What had changed between our first meeting? I did not take you for flighty. And yet, you'd made my breath go raspy and harsh in our chase, as if I were a wolf and you, a delectable lamb. I'd only wished to greet you, to reacquaint ourselves after our unbearable separation, to refortify the promise of our union. That was the moment I'd realized it. Those endless, suffocating seconds. You were just like the others. There was no light in you at all. You saw me as they did. Monster, imagine the anger. Imagine the betrayal. I'd only ever wanted to be with you, to be more like you. But oh, how you fooled me. You were much harder to carry to the car than I'd thought you'd be. And you certainly had a strong and fiery fight in you. I suppose that was the light I thought I'd seen. Because looking at you now as you lay on my table, there is neither life nor light behind those white, unblinking eyes, behind closed doors. Have you seen this boy? The woman behind the chained door shook her head at the creased photograph. He's 6 here, Anna urged, but he's closer to 8 now. Ain't seen him. Sorry, truly I am. The woman hung her head, closing the door. Anna had almost gotten used to it. The slamming doors, the constant barrage of no's, dejected looks momentarily sharing her horror. Then straight back to daily life with the squeak of a hinge and the click of a lock. That's just what normal people do. Life goes on, for most. Times she wished she could close the door on it, say goodbye, give up. But what kind of mother would that make her? Sliding the photo into her inside jacket pocket, she pressed it to her chest, where he belonged. Men huddled on the apartment steps, threw dice, and glared at her as she left. Women shouting from sash windows at kids playing on the street shook their heads at the sight of her. Sorrow? Pity? Repulsion? She didn't know, nor care. By reputation alone, most everyone in Hartsville knew her, or of her. She'd become as much a lost soul as little Jimmy, except no one hunted for her. Not anymore. Released without substantial evidence is how the lawyers explained it. Not innocent, not guilty, somewhere in between, and cast into the worst court of them all, the public. Half the town and all her family blamed her for Jimmy's disappearance, and half again thought she murdered him. Some things just don't rub out after printing. Drawing deep from a cigarette, she leaned against the rust bucket she called a car, and home, its windows crowded with the few possessions her former husband allowed her to have. Gazing up and down the street, she considered how much longer she could do this. How many more shoes could she wear through? How many? Hey, you. Anna turned, searching for the smooth voice. A tall figure lurked in the alleyway opposite, features hidden by the descending sun, intentions none the plainer. Cocking an eyebrow, she pointed to her chest. Yeah, you. Come here. Waving her over, he disappeared into the poster-tattered passage. Discarding the cigarette, she made a show of tucking her 4-day fresh white tank top into her equally dirty jeans. In reality, she ran a hand under her cargo jacket, making sure the snub nose would be easy to pull. Only a fool came into the devil's basement, as the locals called it, unready, unprotected, or more worrying, unwilling to do what might be needed to be done. Steadying her breathing, she edged between the cars and made for the mystery man, standing at the other end now, 1 foot on the crumbling red brickwork, arms folded, eyes closed, his head tilted to the gathering clouds. What do you want? She asked, placing her hands on her hips. Not me. He didn't open his eyes. Well, who? Boss man. Should that mean something to me? Maybe. It doesn't. Now what's this about? He needs a job doing. Says you're the woman for it. Sorry. Don't do job interviews in back alleyways. She turned, throwing a dismissive wave over her shoulder. Here now, woman. Before you go, he wants you to have this. He extended a closed fist, finally opening his eyes. She stepped back, squinting in disbelief at his yellow stare, blazing like the midsummer sun. Nonetheless, curiosity sunk its teeth into her. What's that? A gift. If you like, more be waiting after a ride in that car down there. Nodding toward the perpendicular laneway, Anna leaned out, all cautious, like to spot a rumbling estate wagon. Who's in that? And where would it take me? Trust me, woman. You ain't going to care after you see this. He waggled his fist. She extended a shaking palm. His fingers unfurled. Her heart stopped, then hammered, temple thumping loud. Impossible. Stomach knotting, hairs spiked the length of her neck. How? Dizziness overcame her, faint, happy, angry. It was all too much. Tears welled as she lifted that tiny yellow watch. The one with the cracked Power Ranger face Jimmy flipped open and shut when he got nervous. Terrified of the answer, yet hoping it to be true, she turned it over. J.C. engraved on its back. Jimmy Crawford, her Jimmy. She took off before her reeling mind could catch up, and within seconds flung open the car door. She knew the kind of mother she was. Relentless. The bag over her head didn't scare her, nor the machete-wielding woman next to her. Not even the fact they'd been driving for at least an hour now. No. What scared her was herself. She just jumped without thinking. Anyone could have faked that watch. It was common knowledge he wore one the day he disappeared, but not the engraving Jimmy did with a nail. Or was it? She racked her memory. The car slowed to a stop. Another stop sign. Traffic. The cops? With a mechanical click, the doors unlocked, swung open, and someone seized her elbow. "Let's go, woman." Her bated breath gathered like dew under her nose. Stones crunched underfoot. Then a hinge complained, as what sounded like a heavy metal door groaned open. "There's steps here. Wouldn't it be easier to take this thing off?" Anna asked, trying to add a little unfelt humor to her voice. A sharp jab between her shoulders was the only reply. She didn't ask any more questions, humorous or not. The descent stretched impossibly long, like the moment you see a child falling, but are too slow to react. With each step, the heat grew inferno hot. Sweat matted her hair, dampened her talk, stung her eyes. Where were they taking her? What did they want? Another door opened. The stench of sweat and sewage hitting her harder than a bat. Then music, laughter, glasses clinking. Prodded onwards, silence fell in her wake. Pushed into a chair, she grunted. Canvas bag whipped from her head. She panted the stale air. The room flickered. Tiny flames dancing behind red glass scattered across a discord of tables. Everything blurred as if staring through a heat wave. Licking her lips, she tried making sense of the shapes. Like a head swelling adrenaline rush, everything stopped swaying and came rushing into sobering focus. Hunched over a curved counter, a man fished juicy maggots from a writhing jar, then dropped them, slurping into his toothless mouth. Two skeletal, thin women, wearing nothing but dog collars, curled at the feet of an obese man, rubbing goose fat through his hair. Young men howled at a geriatric pole dancer, whilst an amputee burn victim served curdled milk. All the while, a man on a small stage played dirty blues on a gore-splattered guitar, face a snarled rictus, fingers bloody stumps, vomit climbing her throat, blood draining from her face. She gripped the round table as a drowning man may grip driftwood. Jesus Christ, not quite. She spun to the chocolate, rich-voiced stranger opposite. He wore a smoldering cigar on thin lips, a sneer in his ember eyes, yellowish smoke drifting from flared nostrils. "You this boss man?" He nodded. Courage boiled from the gun in her waistband. "Where's my boy?" Around. He waved a hand festooned with many rings across the debauchery on display. "You'll see him when the time's right, when the deal is done." He leaned from the shadows, elbows making the table creak. "Prove it. Prove he's here." Yellow eyes dropped a tattered ball of fabric into boss man waiting palm. Then he threw it at Anna. Unrolling that faded Superman t-shirt, her chin trembled. Jimmy's t-shirt. What happened to him? Did these people hurt him? She swallowed her fear and the urge to run. Jimmy was here. After 2 years, she finally found something. Something more terrifying than these foul bastards. Hope, what do you want? Where did you get this? She cuddled the disintegrating garment. No small talk. She held his burning gaze. Fair enough. He was wearing it when we found him. Where? Not far. Right under your nose, actually. A neighbor. A fucking what? She leapt up, anger hammering her chest. He held out his hands. Calm, Anna. I'm here to help, Anna. Help? Why? Let's say I've a soft spot for the innocent and outcast. He gestured to sit. She complied. Although it's not the only reason. You see, I provide a service to our little community of Hartville. And you? Well, you are 2 birds, 1 stone. Wouldn't it be nice to stop running? Get the vengeance you deserve. Vengeance? I just want my son. Please. Her voice broke, unstoppable tears falling. You'll want revenge. Boss man studied his nails without a care in the world. A local woman came to me, told me of a man, a terrible man, patrolling the local parks and schools. Said he was offering sweets and toys to her nieces to get into his van. Smart girls ran away. The police, however, did little. The law is weak that way. He paused, puffed his cigar, and blew smoke into Anna's face. So I sent some of my hounds, he nodded to Yellow Eyes and Machete, to rain some hell on this pervert. Thing is, it was clear that his house, his deviant prison, was being used by more than just him. A ring, as they say. We searched the premises, found poor Jimmy chained to a bed frame in the basement with 2 others, little more than malnourished sex dolls. Anna's stomach turned, terror and anger searing her insides. She wanted to hurt someone, anyone. A little torture goes a long way, Anna. Remove a little flesh, and tada, the pervert gave up the names of his accomplices. Would you like to know who they are? Jaw clenched. She hissed the word. Who? I'll give you 3 names. You do what needs to be done. You'll see your boy again. We have a deal? How will I get back here? I don't know. Levi will go with you. Yellow's eyes winked at her. So, is that a yes? No sooner had she agreed than that damn canvas bag was pulled over her head once more. Anna dove into the station wagon's back seat. Ears ringing, heart thumping, throat choked with the metallic aftertaste of gunpowder. Levi smiled between the seats. Damn, Miss Crawford, you a cold bitch. No hesitation. He opens the door, and you just fucking drive already. Anna barked, balling the cuff of her jacket and rubbing at the crimson mottling her face. Ha, okay, you the boss tonight. Anna stared out the rear window. at the tree-lined street and white picket fences speeding by, concerned neighbors stumbling into the road to investigate the woman, wailing over her husband's body at 46 Broken Ridge Avenue. Little did they know the service Anna just did for them. Eradicated suburban filth. First of 3, she rested the revolver on her knee. Somehow, it felt lighter, as if that one bullet carried away the weight of her suffering, her loss. But he wasn't lost. He was waiting for her. Something unexpected curled the edge of her lip. "You smiling, Miss Crawford?" Levi asked into the rearview mirror. "You are. Cold bitch. You're going to fit real nice." She shook her head, dismissing both comment and grin. "Who's next? Edward?" "Calhoun." Anna repeated the name, tracking her finger down the apartment buzzer's nameplates. "There you are." 2 short buzzes, a click, a cough, then, "Hello, who's there?" "Mr. Calhoun, sorry to disturb you." She already picked a name from those displayed. "This is Jessica Longstein. I've lost my key again. And you were the first to..." Yeah. The electrical hum of the magnetic release sent a chill down her spine. Not fear, but anticipation. One step closer to Jimmy, 4 flights of stairs. One long, worn, carpeted hallway, and she stood outside his peeling door. Patiently, she waited for a Latino couple to get on the elevator, then knocked, placing a hand over the spyglass. Floorboards groaned from within. A chain rattled, a bolt slid, and she found herself staring at a stout, unshaven man in his 50s, wearing a blue telecoms shirt. "What can I do for you, Missy?" "This is for Jimmy." His eyes stretched, fearful wide. At the name, the crazed redhead at his door, or the gun inches from his face. It didn't matter. Pull, click, bang. His last thoughts sprayed over the cracked plaster inside, his body collapsing as though its bones turned to mud. For a second, she watched him, hopeless, pathetic, no longer a danger. She breathed deep. 1 to go. "Miss Crawford, yo, Anna. Startling awake, she grabbed Levi's poking hand, blinked into focus, then looked about. She lay in the back of the car. A cul-de-sac of 2-story houses loomed outside, quiet with barely a light on, the moon hanging low, shimmering off their slate roofs. Anna stretched, cracked her neck, then shook her face. "How long were we driving? I can't believe I fell asleep." "It's the adrenaline. Big come down. Happens all the time. I took the long way here. Had to avoid prying eyes. That last one definitely got some flashing light attention. But this is it here, Miss Crawford." Levi pointed out the side window to a silhouetted figured light by the glow of a computer screen, typing into the small hours. Anna sucked her teeth, sniffed, pulled the lapels of her jacket, then checked her gun. Dirty bastard was probably on some chat site, pretending to be a teen girl or some other filth. You ready? And willing, Anna answered, shuffling and gently closing the door. She caught sight of her reflection, frazzled and blood-specked, and an idea fizzled into being. She grabbed her arm, dragged her leg, and hobbled towards the downstairs window. It didn't take long for him to spot her. Taking off his glasses, he twitched the curtains. "Mister, please," she whimpered. "I went off the road, round the corner. I need..." Holding up a hand, he dashed from the room. A porch light sparked to life, and the front door opened. "You okay, lady? What the hell?" He spun, roaring, as the bullet tore through his shoulder. He tried dragging himself back across the perfectly manicured lawn, but it was useless. The hammer fell. Back of the head, he jerked, spasmed, fell still. It was done. She smiled, running back to the car. She could already feel Jimmy in her arms. Her sweet, innocent little Jimmy. The macabre cabaret garnered no interest this time around, and she stared straight at Boss Man when the canvas bag was removed. "My boy," she said, not a request, placing the revolver on the table before her. He smiled, swirled a glass of red wine, drank, then nodded to no one in particular. Eternity stretched out before her, biting her lip, fingers drumming the scarred tabletop. She couldn't quite believe it. She'd finally found him. Two great bulking necklace forms lumbered from the shadows, a metal box held between them. It thudded onto the table before her. Boss Man grinned, tapping its top. Giggles simmered behind her as she lifted the lid with trembling hands. Tears exploded, lip quivering, shoulders shaking. There was no mistaking it. Those cheekbones, large, hollow eyes, even the skin dried and rippled as it was. She touched his forehead, sweeping away a dirty blonde fringe, and kissed him. She pulled his cracking and snapping corpse into her arms, his jaw swinging open in one last horrific scream. Falling to her knees, she pressed him close to her chest, where he belonged. Why didn't you tell me?" she spluttered between sobs. "I said you'd see him again. Here you go." Laughter rose like hyenas on the hunt. The unwashed bodies pressing coffin close around her. "It's okay, honey," she whispered to her son, rocking back and forth. "I got the bastards. I got them. 2 of them, anyway," Boss Man sneered. "What?" I said there were accomplices. I didn't say all 3 were. You humans are so eager to jump to your worst instincts. Oh dear God. Oh God. He can't help you, Anna. We have a long-standing arrangement. He finished the wine with a lip smack. "Why are you doing this to me? You're monsters, all of you." Boss Man leaned forward. "Didn't I say I've a soft spot for the innocent? Poor Jimmy suffered because of you. You're the monster who left her 6-year-old son alone in the park, whilst you scored some smack," she wailed. "I'm clean now. It seemed pointless to try to explain. It wasn't going to bring him back. "What the fuck are you?" she roared. "You know already. You've always known. And now you're mine, forevermore." To a cacophony of laughter, she lowered Jimmy's remains back into the metal box, slowly closed the squeaking hinge, said goodbye, and gave up. Her finger wrapped around the trigger, the barrel cold beneath her chin. Perhaps in death she could be a better kind of mother. "See you soon, son." These old bones, flowery carvings, adorned the strangely shaped old furniture and caught Jacob's eye. Happy cherubs were encrusted with dust, and on the walls, the springtime imagery of oil paintings was draped in cobwebs hanging like veils. The floorboards creaked, and the weight of dust and neglect hung everywhere. But still, Jacob couldn't help but explore and get lost in the place, looking for creepy old things and ghosts. At last, he made his way up to the attic, which was pierced here and there by shafts of dust-specked morning light shining through the windows. It was filled with boxes and countless old and broken things, and it smelled musty and faintly of the sweet smell of rot and aged tobacco. Altogether, the scent spoke of a long history and was not entirely unpleasant. Stacks of magazines were spilled on the ground, and a ratty mannequin was wearing a straw-colored blonde wig. On one side, a line of well-worn teddy bears of various sizes stared back at him. Suddenly, his foot slipped on something, and looking down, he saw the parchment-like paper of architectural diagrams lying buried under a thick layer of dust. Then, at a small desk nearby, a black and white photo album lay open, revealing pictures of distant relatives he had never heard of. All in all, it felt like a strange old museum filled with oddities from centuries past. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something truly creepy was indeed hidden here, and he wasn't sure that he wanted to play hide and seek with it. He was about to turn and leave when suddenly he felt goosebumps on his neck. He heard a girl's voice sweetly humming a song he did not know. Then he saw her playfully skipping towards him, wearing an old-fashioned dress. She shimmered transparently, light blue and opalescent. She was swinging her arms by her sides, her eyes sparkling with mischief as she peered at him. And somehow, he forgot to be afraid. "Hi, my name's Jacob. Aren't you a ghost?" he asked her, his brow furrowed. "It's so very nice to meet you, Jacob. I'm Mildred," the little girl said elegantly, before curtsying. "And yes, I am a ghost. Isn't it obvious?" she added, with a teasing smirk that somehow got under his skin. "Don't tease me. It's not every day that one meets a ghost. You know, that's true. And in my case, you can only see me on Halloween. It's when I get to play for just one day a year, Mildred said. And then she jumped up into the air, her ethereal substance warping and elongating, rapidly funneling into the ear of a nearby teddy bear. "Why, hello there," she said in a mock teddy bear voice, waving the bear's paw. "That's so cool," Jacob said. "Yes, it's quite fun. I can animate a lot of things. You want I should go into your parents' car next?" she asked, with a mischievous grin. "Nah, I don't think they'd appreciate that," Jacob said pensively. "But let's totally find other things to try." Then, as Mildred stepped out of the bear, Jacob paused a while before speaking. "Hey, why don't you come trick-or-treating with me tonight? You can use the biggest bear and pretend it's a costume." "What a great idea. I can't believe I never thought of that. Or maybe I just never had anyone to go with," Mildred said, her expression growing bashful. "Well, you've got me now, Mildred. Jacob, come down. We're going to go visit the town," his mother called out from the floor below. "Hey, I'll be back real soon, okay?" Jacob said. "Right. I'll be here waiting for you," Mildred answered with a nod. Later in the day, it had grown dark, and Jacob came up the ladder, holding a lantern in one hand. "My mom's got a bunch of candles burning downstairs. She thought that it would be cool to use candles inside the pumpkins. Some of them are scented, but I hope you don't mind the smell. Your mom sounds pretty fun. And also, I can't smell, silly. I'm a ghost." "Right," Jacob said, slapping his forehead. "Hey, Jacob, I have a secret to show you. How about I show you my favorite toy?" Mildred skipped over to the back of the room and into a large chest hidden behind piles of boxes. The chest creaked open, and Jacob went over to see what was inside. He was taken aback at seeing an old skeleton. It seemed small, like a child's skeleton, and he realized this was where the sickly smell of rot had been coming from. "Mildred, is it yours?" Jacob asked, eyes wide open, his throat growing dry, and his pulse running a little faster. "Yes, it is. Unfortunately, I died here under circumstances most foul. It's why I'm a ghost haunting this place, you silly boy," she said teasingly. "But that was a long time ago. Since then, I've grown so bored, and this was one of my most fun toys. Truly, I've had such fun scaring people who saw me through the attic windows," she added with a giggle. "I guess that could be fun," Jacob said, unsure what to say. Then she continued, "But here, I'll show you. Now, don't you get spooked on me," she said, jumping into the skeleton. There was a sudden buzz of static electricity, and Jacob's lantern shut off. The room was now only lit by the otherworldly blue glow of the animated skeleton. "Isn't it fun and creepy?" he heard Mildred's voice say with a giggle, seeing the little girl's skeleton come out of the chest and walk towards him in the dark with a lurching gait. Jacob was seized with a sudden terror. Had she been friendly all along? just to lure him here and do goodness knew what to him. Jacob ran away, screaming and knocking things over. Immediately, the old bones clattered to the floor. I didn't mean to scare you so much. Please, please come back, he heard Mildred's voice say with a whimper as he hurried down the attic steps. Please, Jacob, he heard her beg again from further away, her voice no less desperate for being fainter. It was only with great effort that he finally screwed on his courage and came back up the ladder. His lantern was lit again when he carefully emerged into the attic. Finally, he saw Mildred waiting for him there, wiping ghostly tears from her cheeks, an apologetic look on her face. I was so worried you wouldn't come back, and I'm so sorry for scaring you. I guess I came up with some strange games all by myself. It's okay, and I'm so sorry you were lonely, Mildred. But now you've got me to talk to. Oh, won't you please come by and talk to me again later? I can still speak to you on other days, even though you won't be able to see me. I promise I'll come by as often as I can, Jacob said solemnly, and Mildred gave him a sweet smile. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, Jacob, she said softly. Wanna go trick-or-treating? Get into the bear, and I'll meet you outside in half an hour. Deal, Mildred answered with a grin. The shadow, the night, was silent, draped in an inky darkness that swallowed the world outside the small security room. I sat alone, surrounded by an array of flickering screens that illuminated my face in a ghastly blue glow. The hum of the surveillance equipment was the only sound in the room, its monotony broken only by the occasional creak of the building settling or the distant wail of a siren. I was the lone sentinel, tasked with safeguarding the premises during the bewitching hours of the night shift. Hours had passed since I settled into my chair, my eyes diligently scanning the labyrinthine halls and desolate rooms of the building. Everything appeared as it should, empty, lifeless, and eerily quiet. But as the clock ticked deeper into the night, a sense of unease settled in the pit of my stomach. The air seemed charged with a palpable tension, as if something sinister lurked just beyond the reach of the camera lenses. I leaned forward, adjusting my seat and peering closer at one of the monitors. In the dim light, the corridor appeared to stretch endlessly, the flickering fluorescent lights casting long, ominous shadows on the walls. As my eyes darted across the screen, I saw a movement, a mere blur at the edge of the frame. My breath caught in my throat, and I focused on the camera, my heart pounding. There, in the grainy black and white footage, was a figure. It was tall and gaunt, its features obscured by shadows. The figure moved slowly, almost purposefully, down the hallway, its gait uneven and unsettling. I squinted, trying to make out any distinguishing features, but the face remained hidden, shrouded in darkness, a shiver crept up my spine as I grabbed the radio at my side. Central, this is security. I've got a visual on an unidentified person in Corridor C. I need backup. Static crackled before a voice responded, thick with sleep. Copy that. We're sending someone your way. Stay on the line. I nodded, my eyes never leaving the screen. The figure continued its eerie saunter, disappearing momentarily from one camera's view, only to reappear on another. It seemed to be toying with me, always staying just out of clear sight. A phantom in the night. Minutes dragged on like hours as I awaited the arrival of my colleagues. The figure persisted in its haunting stroll, growing closer to the main entrance with every passing moment. I gripped the edges of the desk, my knuckles turning white, and watched in dread as it reached the lobby. As if sensing my gaze, the figure turned its head toward the camera, and I gasped. Its eyes, 2 points of cold, blue light, glowed in the darkness, fixated on the lens, as if it could see me. I recoiled, my heart pounding so loudly that I could hear it in my ears. Central, it's looking at the camera, I stammered into the radio. I need someone here now. The response was a garbled mess of static and fragmented words. Desperation clawed at me as I watched the figure approach the security room. It moved with an unnatural grace, its movements silent and deliberate. My fingers fumbled for the door lock, and I managed to secure it just as the figure reached the hallway outside. The lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the room, and I pressed myself against the wall, my breath shallow and rapid. I could hear its footsteps now, soft but deliberate, as it approached the door. Each step sent a chill down my spine, and I prayed that the lock would hold. The figure stopped just outside the door, and I held my breath, willing myself to be invisible. Through the frosted glass window, I saw its silhouette, tall and imposing. Its hand reached out, fingers curling around the doorknob. I bit down hard on my lip to stifle a scream. My entire body tensed, ready to bolt at a moment's notice. Seconds stretched into an eternity before the figure withdrew its hand, and I heard its footsteps fading away down the corridor. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. The building seemed to groan and sigh around me, the very walls whispering secrets that I couldn't comprehend. Summoning my courage, I cautiously unlocked the door and peeked into the hallway. It was empty, devoid of any signs of the figure. I hesitated for a moment before venturing out, my flashlight casting shaky beams of light across the walls. The air was thick with a sense of dread, and I could feel unseen eyes watching my every move. I retraced the figure's steps, my footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. Each flickering light and distant sound sent my heart racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed, that the figure was still there, just out of sight, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I finally reached the lobby, my eyes scanning the area for any signs of movement. The room was still, the silence broken only by the distant wail of sirens. I let out a shaky breath, my nerves frayed to the breaking point. Whatever had been in the building with me was gone, but its presence lingered, a haunting memory etched into the very walls. I made my way back to the security room, my steps quickening with each passing moment. As I entered, I glanced at the monitors, half expecting to see the figure staring back at me. But the screens were empty, showing only the empty halls and deserted rooms. I sank into my chair, my hands trembling as I reached for the radio. "Central, this is security. I think it's gone. I don't know what it was, but it's gone now." The response was a crackle of static. And then a voice came through, tinged with concern. "Are you all right? Do you need medical assistance?" I hesitated for a moment before shaking my head, even though I felt far from all right. "No, I'm fine. Just shaken up. I'll be okay." The sun began to rise, casting a faint light through the windows and dispelling the darkness that had settled over the building. My relief was palpable, but the memory of that night would forever haunt my dreams. I had come face to face with something beyond explanation, something that defied logic and reason. As the day shift arrived to relieve me, I gathered my belongings and made my way to the exit. The building, once familiar and comforting, now felt alien and menacing. I stepped out into the daylight, the warmth of the sun, a stark contrast to the cold grip of fear that still clung to me. I glanced back at the building one last time, my eyes drawn to the security room window. For a brief moment, I thought I saw a flicker of movement inside, a shadowy figure standing amidst the monitors. But it was gone in an instant, leaving me to wonder if it had ever been there at all. I walked away, my footsteps quickening with every step. The world around me seemed to blur, the events of the night replaying in my mind like a nightmare. I didn't know what I had encountered, and I wasn't sure I wanted to. Some things, it seemed, were better left in the darkness, where they belonged. The spooky boogie. Halloween is a holiday that everyone knows well, because it's the only time humans and spirits can coexist. Every year on October 31st, the dead rise from their graves and walk among us. The demons crawl out from the shadows because the holy light holds no sway, and even the monsters come out to play. At first, there was bloodshed on both sides, but it didn't take long for humans to adapt to the annual phenomenon by dressing up in silly costumes to blend in with the evil entities. And oddly enough, it worked. When bloodlust is in a demon's eyes, they fail to see the obvious. Over the years, the tradition morphed into a children's fairy tale. And these days, no one bats an eye if a spectral spook passes by. Adults took on a responsible attitude and allowed their little ones to go out and enjoy the night. Soon after, a festive event called trick-or-treating came roaring into every neighborhood around the world. Every girl and boy would get candy if they simply knocked on someone's door and said, "Trick or treat." The evil creatures paid no attention to the humans and their silly ways. They couldn't tell friend from foe when they wore the costumes, or why one of their own would knock on a stranger's door and not tear them apart. It was a farce that became institutionalized in its absurdity. To each their own. As the world grew older, so did the Halloween fairy tale. The traditional holiday of trick-or-treating morphed into a health-conscious day when adults decided that too much sugar was bad for their kids. It became a hot topic for years, but the day of righteousness came when many children became obese. In the end, the simple solution was fair and just. The little ones could still go out on Halloween night, but instead of getting candy, they would get vegetables instead. It wasn't a popular decision, but it became law and was written in stone. The evil spirits didn't care one way or the other, because they floated on with their once-a-year Halloween romp, stomp, and boogie. They still couldn't tell humans from demons, but occasionally a slip-up would occur. If someone removed their costume or mask in a spirit's presence, they were torn limb from limb without a second thought. This was a rare occurrence, but an important reminder to parents and children everywhere to always wear their outfits, no matter what. In the wee hours on Lame Street, Timmy Lawson sat before his parents, while his mom, Amanda, adjusted his vampire cape. She saw his legs thumping and asked, "Are you nervous about tonight?" Timmy widened his and replied, "No, Mom. My Dracula costume is the best on the block, and I'm ready to go." He parted his mouth slightly to show his fake vampire teeth and snarled, "Arr!" Amanda looked at her watch and bit her bottom lip. Her blonde hair hid her face, but Timmy could sense her apprehension. "I'll be fine, Mom. I know you will," Amanda said. "I'm your mother, and I'm allowed to worry." Timmy folded his arms and frowned. "Mom!" "Fine," Amanda blurted. "You better get going before it gets too late." Doves exploded in Timmy's heart, and he jumped out of his chair. "Yay!" His father, John, who was always overprotective, lowered his evening paper and warned, "Before you go, I want you to be on your best behavior. And remember, no candy or sweets." Amanda parted her golden locks and echoed, "That's right, Timmy. Only vegetables." Timmy lowered his head and slouched. "No one gives out candy anymore. It's against the law." John reached up to his clean-shaven face and removed his black glasses. "That's true, son. But in this world, there are still a lot of people out there who don't follow that law. Just remember, humans are just as bad as those monsters, and perhaps a bit worse." "Okay, Dad." Timmy didn't fully understand, but his dad was a wise man, and he'd be a fool not to listen. "Your father's right," Amanda said. "We just want you to be safe." She knelt and placed a gentle kiss on Timmy's forehead. "Now go have some fun." A bright sparkle filled Timmy's eyes, and an eruption of freedom sprang from his lungs. He grabbed his empty pumpkin bucket and raced through the front door without saying goodbye. The cool night air brushed over his skin like a masterful painter, lightly kissing the canvas with a boisterous color. Lame Street was bustling with children dressed in their favorite costumes: clowns, unicorns, beasts, and all. What an awesome night. Lame Street was a small suburban community where every house looked the same, with trimmed bushes, mowed lawns, and perfectly placed trash cans that stood next to the residential mailboxes by the sidewalk. A place where everyone drove a Prius and worked 9-to-5 jobs. Everything was routine, and that's the way they liked it. As Timmy took in the scene, he noticed that his friends were waiting for him at the end of the driveway. Alice was dressed as a ghost. Her white bed sheet, with the eyes cut out, showed a sliver of red hair, which was a dead giveaway. The werewolf was Fred. There was no mistaking that, because he had an uneven stride and often lingered behind the others to hide his anxiety. Then there was Carrie, dressed in a silky black dress with a matching pointy hat, long fake nose, and a huge brown wart stuck to her right cheek. She was a witch. "What took you so long?" Carrie asked. "We've been waiting here forever." "Sorry," Timmy said, walking towards them. "My parents, I'm gonna stop you right there, pal," Alice fired. "We all know your parents are a bag of dicks, so let's go before the night ends. The other kids are already going home." Carrie gave Timmy a wry smile as their eyes met, and he took the lead down the sidewalk. "Okay then," Timmy said, with rosy cheeks. "Let's have some fun and get as many vegetables as we can." I don't like vegetables," Fred stuttered, bringing up the rear. The first house they visited was Mr. Sullivan's, their 4th grade math teacher. Timmy knocked 3 times on his oak door, and Mr. Sullivan laughed when it swung open. "Ah, what do we have here? A witch, vampire, ghost, and a werewolf. Trick or treat, Mr. Sullivan," Carrie yelled, holding out her black plastic cauldron. Sullivan smiled and said, "Well, don't you all look so cute?" He reached around the corner and revealed a huge basket of apples. "Here you go, children. I'm afraid I'm out of veggies this evening, so these juicy apples will have to do." Timmy extended a shaky hand and swallowed deep. My parents said only vegetables. Fruits and veggies are a heaven's delight, Sullivan groaned. I don't see the harm as long as it's not candy. He pushed the basket further toward the kids. Alice grabbed one and quickly took a bite. The sweet juices dripped down her chin, and she smiled. See, they're not laced with poison, so grab one and let's go. Well, you wouldn't know right away, because the poison takes a few minutes to kill you anyway, Fred said, peering through his wolf mask. They all shared a laugh, grabbed an apple, and headed for the next house. Thanks, Mr. Sullivan. See you back in school. Okay, children, he said, watching them leave. Be safe, and don't forget that quiz on Monday. The second house belonged to Jane Thatcher, leader of the neighborhood gossip group. When she answered the door, the kids saw a huge bucket filled with baby carrots. Hello, kids. You all look nice. Alice held out her ghost bucket and watched Jane throw one baby carrot in. Plop. Alice narrowed her eyes and asked, What happened to the big carrots we got last year? Jane drew her lips in and took a deep breath. The kids leaned backward and flared their nostrils because her breath smelled like an ashtray. That's because she smoked a pack a day. Well, times are tough, and you can't blame an old lady for trying to save a little. That's okay, Timmy said, holding out his pumpkin bucket. It's better than nothing. Fred held out his wolf bucket and stepped back when he saw Jane place 3 baby carrots inside. He blinked rapidly behind his mask before noticing her ashen breath upon his brow. There you go, sweetie. I think your costume looks the best. And everyone knows I like my men with a lot of hair. Ha, ha, ho. When he saw her yellow-stained teeth up close, Fred ran away. The others quickly followed, but they couldn't hide their laughter. Don't forget to come back now, you hear? Jane yelled. That was gross, Fred moaned. Ha, 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 laughed Alice. I think she likes you. Timmy couldn't uncurl his smiling lips. No, I think she loves you. She wants to pet your fur, Alice scoffed. All right, guys, Carrie urged, taking off her hat. That's enough. Fred didn't deserve that, and we have no right to make fun. Fred removed his fury gloves and shook the sweat out. He shuffled his feet, cleared his throat, and coughed. Ew. I can still taste her rotten breath. Timmy removed his fake fangs and said, Carrie's right. I'm sorry for laughing at you, but it was a little funny. Yeah, Alice said, lifting her bed sheet to suck in the night air. We were just pulling your leg. We're sorry. Fred swayed from side to side and said, It's fine. I guess it was a little funny. You know what we need? Alice muttered. We need some candy. That would be awesome. We can't have candy, Timmy said, looking at the pavement. Besides, no one around here gives it out anyway. Carrie nodded and gave Alice a pat on the shoulder. You're right. Getting vegetables every year sucks. And it would be nice to have some sweets. Yeah, Fred agreed. Suddenly, a deep, shallow whisper blew by the children, like a small flower floating in the air on a warm summer day. Did someone say candy? Stepping out from the nearby bushes was a small, slender man. His face was a carved pumpkin, and he wore a black top hat with a matching suit with gold trim, boots, and white pants. He held an antique lantern to light his way. The children were speechless. They had never seen a costume like his. "Who are you?" Timmy asked, breaking the silence. His eyes were fixated on the mysterious figure. "Me? I'm Mr. Spooky, silly," he said, bowing. He wobbled over and peered into their plastic buckets. "What's this? An apple? Carrots? Where are the sweet treats?" Alice placed her hands on her hips, and her sheet ruffled in the wind. "We're not allowed to have them. Where have you been hiding? Under a rock or something?" "No," Mr. Spooky said. He held up his lantern and uttered, "I've been locked away in darkness for the longest time, but I found this light, and it has guided me here." Are you a demon?" Fred asked, taking a step back. "I told you already. My name is Mr. Spooky, and there is no other." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a handful of lollipops. "I have all the sweet treats you could ask for." Alice widened her eyes, and the sheet covering her face became moist at the mouth. "Wow!" Timmy shook his head when he heard his parents' words echo. "No candy, only vegetables." The thought sent a river of snakes sliding down his side. "We're not allowed to have any candy, Mr. Spooky." "What?" Mr. Spooky shrieked. "No candy? That's absurd. Don't you know what day this is?" Carrie stepped forward and brushed Mr. Spooky's hand away. She didn't want to hear any more of his nonsense. "Look, Timmy's right. We can't have candy, no matter how much we want it. It's the law. If we break it, we'll be grounded forever." "How rude," Mr. Spooky said. "No child should ever be grounded. My candy will free you and make you fly like the birds in the sky." Look, man, we appreciate your offer, but we need to go now," Fred said. The children turned their backs to Mr. Spooky and left him alone with an upside-down smile. They didn't mean to hurt his feelings, but in their defense, they were trying to do the right thing. Mr. Spooky thought and thought as the children walked away. No child should ever go without sweet treats. I must change their minds. "Wait!" he called out. The kids stopped and turned. "I have a spooktacular idea. We should do the spooky boogie dance. It always cheers me up. And then maybe you will have some delicious treats." Before the children could say anything, Mr. Spooky stuck out his butt and twirled around like a dancing clown. Timmy, Alice, Fred, and Carrie had a strong urge to run away. But they stood firmly and watched Mr. Spooky because he was just too darn cute. Before they knew it, he broke out into a song. Everybody twirl your body. Do the spooky boogie. Clap, clap, clap. Throw your hands up now. And clap, clap, clap. Stick that booty out. And clap, clap, clap. Do the spooky boogie. Shuffle here and shuffle there. Do the spooky boogie. The spooky boogie. Mr. Spooky's song and dance intoxified the air like a poison mist, and the children soon found themselves twirling and singing along. Their minds were like a lost ship sailing into uncharted waters. The discovery of a newfound rebellion was at hand. Within minutes, candy rained down, much to Mr. Spooky's delight. Oh, how wonderful! Sweet treats from the heavens above. Dig in now and enjoy the splendor. Timmy clenched his stomach and stiffened his jaw. No? Our parents said no, but I say yes. What good is Halloween if we can't enjoy a sweet snack? Mr. Spooky spun around and threw more candy at the children. Alice was the first child to give in to the wicked bliss. She picked up a chocolate bar and took a big bite. Oh, this is wonderful! Fred grabbed a piece of Laffy Taffy and bit into the sticky goodness. As it stretched an arm's length, he smiled and said, "This is good." Carrie and Timmy held out the longest, but after seeing their friends give in, they had to sample the goods. They grabbed a peanut butter bar and crunched down. No words came, but Mr. Spooky could tell they loved it by their upward smiles. That's it, my lovelies. Eat. Eat until you've had your fill of sugary sweets. Mr. Spooky twirled and swirled like a ballerina and watched the children devour the candy like a pack of wild dogs. They were in it deep now and munched away every ounce of the candy. They ate so much that they fell to the pavement. They were plump, juicy, and ripe. Now that you've all had your fill, I suppose I shall have mine, Mr. Spooky growled, walking around their fallen bodies. You all look so delicious. Timmy rolled over and mumbled, "No, you can't do this." Mr. Spooky cackled at Timmy's protest. He raised his lantern and smashed it down on his head. The impact did nothing more than shut his mouth. With another twirl, a thick plume of purple smoke filled the air, and Mr. Spooky transformed into a hideous demon. His sweet pumpkin face gave birth to devious evil that was hidden all along. He ripped his suit off to reveal a pair of old brown overalls that covered a dusty white shirt. His voice had also changed. It was deeper and more demonic. Yummy, yummy. You children are now full of sugar, just the way I like my sweet treats. Mr. Spooky reached into his overalls and pulled out 2 sharp kitchen knives. that twinkled in the moonlight. Now, stay still while I cut you up to pieces. I can't eat you whole after all, ha 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 ha. Alice still had a piece of chocolate in her mouth, and as Mr. Spooky walked towards her, knives dangling by his side, she spat out the sugary treat. He carelessly stepped into the sticky goo and fell with a thunderous thud. His blade slid in front of Timmy and Carrie, and they grabbed them with lightning speed. Fred exploded to his feet and tackled Mr. Spooky so he couldn't escape. You're not going anywhere. Even he was surprised at his newfound courage. That's right, Alice yelled, standing. The one thing about sugar is that it messes with your mind and makes you want more. Yeah, Timmy said, holding his head. And we are still hungry. What? Mr. Spooky shouted. You can't do this to me. Mr. Spooky writhed back and forth, trying to break free from Fred's grasp, but it was useless. Timmy and Carrie seized the moment, plunged their blades into Mr. Spooky's head, and cut away huge chunks of pumpkin slices. He screamed like a dying cat. Alice and Fred stuck their mouths inside his skull and drank deeply with their sticky lips. They spat out the seeds and laughed. Timmy and Carrie continued carving away until their sugar rush melted away and ate what was left. The last thing Mr. Spooky heard was someone chomping down on his skull. Later that night, the children agreed to return to Timmy's house to watch some scary movies. They promised each other that they would never talk about what had happened. When they walked through the door, Timmy's parents asked, "Did you all eat your vegetables?" In one collective voice, they said, "Yes, we did." Greedy Gary's ghosts. It was pitch black when Greedy Gary shuffled out of his house at 6 a.m. one freezing January morning. Everyone knew him as Greedy Gary because he loved his grub and ate massive portions of meat for every meal. Whether it was bacon buddies, burgers, fried chicken, or his personal favorite, lamb doner kebab, no salad, Greedy Gary lived for meat. Gary didn't love his nickname, but he'd grown tired of telling people off for using it. And deep down, Gary knew he was a bit greedy compared to others. But he wasn't doing anybody any harm. He set the engine running, then started de-icing the van. Gary was quite unfit, so was soon puffing hard from the effort. Despite only wearing t-shirt and shorts in the freezing temperatures, he was drenched in sweat as he heaved himself up into the cab. Once on the road, Gary decided that, as he'd just done some exercise already, an early breakfast was in order. So he pulled into his favorite lay-by pit stop, shook an angry fist at the long line of lorries, and parked a few hundred yards from where he wanted to. "Greedy Gaza, mate. Usual, is it?" said the burger van man. A puffed-out Gary nodded in reply. 5 minutes later, Gary climbed back into his cab and placed the white tea with 3 in the cup holder, and a dinner plate-sized triple belly buster, sausage and bacon, BAP on the dashboard. Gary slurped the grease off his fingers, took the polystyrene cup in one hand, and licked his lips as a juicy, meaty aroma filled the cab. "Wouldn't eat that if I were you," said a strange, squealing voice. Gary screamed, jumped a foot in the air, and launched hot tea over the windscreen. It took a moment to register what happened. Someone else was in the van with him. He took a tentative peek to his left. A see-through pig was sat there, grinning. "Fright number 3042, snort," said the pig. "Hello, greedy Gary. So sorry. Not sorry to scare you." Gary's chins trembled. What the? Who are you?" "I'm Kevin, snort," said Kevin the pig. "Kevin? Yes, Kevin Bacon. Nice to meet you." Gary burst out laughing, and the whole van shook. "Oh, nice one, nice one. This is one of them TV prank shows, innit? Kevin Blooming Bacon." Kevin turned his head to one side, observing this curious reaction. "This isn't a TV show, Gary." Yeah, it is. You're one of them. Whatchamacallit? Virtual thingies, right? You mean virtual reality?" Gary beamed at how smart he was. Yeah, that's the one. Nice one. Proper got me." Kevin shook his head at how thick humans can be. "I'm not a virtual reality pig from a TV show. I am the ghost of breakfasts past. Snort." Gary stopped laughing, raised an eyebrow, then quivered. "Ghost?" Gary didn't care much for ghosts. "Yes, I'm dead. Butchered many moons ago," said Kevin, who flew out through the windscreen and back again to show that he really was a ghost. Gary's face turned as white as the empty foam cup in his hand. "A ghost? Pig? That talks?" "Yes, and as I was saying, I am the ghost of breakfasts past, snort, and I'm here to show you the error of your ways." Kevin narrowed his eyes, in that way that talking dead pigs do when they need to be serious. "Gary, 5 minutes ago, you became the official biggest meat eater in the world." Gary unclenched his butt cheeks, just a little, as curiosity got the better of him. "Really? How come?" "The previous holder of that dubious title died about 5 minutes ago," said Kevin, with a solemn shake of his head. "Heart attack got him. Was only 36. Mexican fella. Chili Chico, they called him. Ate nothing for 20 years, but beef and pork chili." Gary pumped his fist in the air. "Yes, I'm a world record holder, wahoo." Kevin once again cocked his head and observed Gary's misplaced joy at benefiting from a young man's untimely demise. Gary had missed the message that Chili Chico was only 2 years older than him. Chico was a gentle soul who tried to listen to Kevin, but just couldn't change his ways in time. But this obnoxious, greedy Gary was something else. Perhaps Kevin's hardest case yet. It was time for something less subtle. So Kevin clicked his trotters and transported them both back to a vision of Gary's recent past. They were in the local hospital. Gary's eyes grew wider than his breakfast bap as he saw himself sprawled out on a bed with his loving wife, Stacy, crying by his side. Multiple cables connected his body to multiple machines. Gary remembered why he was there, how he had clutched his chest and collapsed at the cafe, how he never got to finish his third full English breakfast. "You're lucky this time," said the doctor to patient Gary from the past. "Take this as a warning shot. You must change your high-fat diet, eat less meat, and more fresh fruit and vegetables. I'm referring you to a specialist dietitian." The painful memory faded away, and Gary found himself back in his van, still accompanied by a talking see-through pig. "You never saw the dietitian, did you, Gary?" said Kevin. "You did not heed the warning, Snort," Gary huffed. He was tired of being lectured. "Right. I've had enough of your guilt-tripping, Mr. Kevin Blooming Bacon. So leave me alone, Mr. Ghost of Breakfasts Past, 'cause the only breakfast I care about is the one in front of my nose. So why don't you trot off and let me eat in peace?" Gary scooped up the triple belly buster, brought it to his saliva-glistened lips, and opened his mouth as wide as London Tower Bridge. "Gary, no!" cried Kevin. "Do you even know what that sausage is made of? Piggy guts and lips and bum holes. Guts and lips and bum holes, Snort." "I know," said Gary, as he munched down on the many greasy layers of processed pig. "Delicious." A single ghostly tear rolled down Kevin's pinkish cheek, and then he vanished. Gary shrugged, chucked the plastic cup out of the window onto the grass verge, then drove onto work. Finally, it was lunchtime, and greedy Gary was ravenous. At tea break earlier, when he'd opened up his snack box, he found that kind, sweet Stacy had packed 3 of his favorite sausage rolls. What a treat. But he couldn't bring himself to take a single bite. He hadn't really enjoyed all of his triple belly buster earlier, after the whole Ghost of Breakfasts Past shenanigans. It didn't sit right, and not just in his stomach, and Gary worried that Kevin was angry with him. But that was ages ago, and now greedy Gary could eat a horse. So he hustled over to the on-site Porta-Cabin canteen. Greedy Gary. "Usual, me love?" asked the woman behind the counter. Gary nodded and rubbed his hands in glee. Some workmates called him to come and sit with them, but then Gary remembered Kevin. What if he comes back in front of everyone? So Gary took his mega cheese power tower burger that was as big at his thick head, stacked with 8 regular burgers and as many gooey slices of processed cheese, back to his digger to eat in peace. He opened his ginormous cake hole and "Wouldn't eat that if I were you," said a deep, slow voice. Gary froze. Not again. He lowered the basketball-sized burger, and his jaw dropped. The huge head of a see-through cow grinned at him. "Ah!" screamed Gary. He launched his burger like a grenade at the spooky intruder. But the greasy missile just sailed straight through and splattered cheesy beef all over the windscreen. "Well, that's no way to greet a lady," said the cow. "I'm Patty Moo." Gary's face went red with rage. "Well, Patty Moo, why don't you Patty do one? I'm getting sick of this." "You're getting sick of this?" said Patty. "You're getting sick of this? How dare you, Moo? I died to give you that burger. And then you literally throw it back in my face." Gary recoiled and squinted his eyes. "What did you say?" "I said I died to give you that burger. You were about to eat my mashed-up rump. I am the ghost of lunches present, Moo, and I'm here to show you the error of your ways." Gary didn't know what to say. His brain whirled with all the possibilities he could think of. All two of them. This new ghost could well be pulling his leg. The whole thing could be a massive wind-up or a TV prank show. But if not, nothing personal, said Gary. A man's gotta eat. Then his chins started trembling again. You're not going to eat me, are you? Patty burst into deafening laughter. Oh, nice one, Gary. Nice one. No, you don't look much like a tasty grass meadow. I think you're safe on that front, Moo. Then Patty lowered her long eyelashes in that way that talking dead cows do when they need to be serious. Do you ever think about where your food really comes from? Gary screwed up his face at the stupid question. It comes from whoever cooks it. Patty rolled her beautiful big eyes. But what about before that? For example, where do you think I came from? Some field, I suppose, said Gary. A cramped and dusty feed pen, actually, said Patty. I never got to eat grass, though I could see it growing just across the yard. To make your mega cheese power tower. Burger Gary, I was fattened up on corn, soy, and growth hormone drugs. Moo, Gary just shrugged. Tastes good though, don't it? Patty tilted her head to one side and thought about what to do with this particularly obnoxious and uncaring human. This was Patty's first assignment as the ghost of lunches present. And Kevin warned her she'd been thrown in the deep end with Gary. Patty was a cow who hadn't spent any time with humans yet, so she didn't really know what the pig meant. But she got the gist. It was time for something less subtle. So Patty clicked her hooves and transported them both to the Amazon rainforest, at least where much of it used to be. Dawn was just breaking in this part of the world, but instead of the sunlight beaming through the cracks of a lush, dense canopy, it rose in plain sight from the east horizon and lit up a barren, brown wasteland. There was nothing but bare earth as far as the eye could see. The land had been plowed into long columns that stretched onward into the distance. But nothing grew here yet. This land was dead. Gary's chins quivered like jelly. Where are we? Is this the afterlife, in a way? Yes, said Patty. We're in Brazil, present day. But just 1 year ago, on this very spot, ancient towering trees would have blocked the sky out, and all manner of creatures, now either fled or dead, called this unspoilt wilderness home, from mighty jaguars to endangered tree frogs and countless species of insects. Gary looked around again and imagined the scene that Patty described. He and Stacy enjoyed the odd nature documentary during their TV dinners. A strange sense of loss came over him. What happened here? Humans, moo. Humans came, with diggers 5 times bigger than your one, and flattened the rainforest. Soon they will plant soy here, endless miles upon miles of soybeans, to fatten up cattle around the world like me for cheap beef. The tragic scene faded away, and Gary found himself back in his digger, still accompanied by a talking, see-through cow. Patty's big, searching eyes looked deep into Gary's own, as if they were a window into his soul. So, Gary, now you know the cost of your extreme diet. Will you change it? Gary hung his head. It's not every day that you meet the cow you're about to eat. And he was genuinely moved by experiencing the devastation of the rainforest. He thought that cows just roamed lush green fields in the English countryside. He had no idea of the global impact of his massive meat-munching habit. But then, something caught his attention. A smell. A most delicious smell. And his stomach rumbled. He caught sight of the Mega Cheese Power Tower, Mess, on the dashboard. Without thinking, as if on autopilot, he shoved a huge fistful of greasy burger into his greedy gob. Gary, no, cried Patty. But Gary just kept on chewing and chewing, lost in this moment of taste satisfaction, like some oblivious, carnivorous beast. A single, ghostly tear rolled down Patty's nose, and then she vanished. Gary gasped at what he had done. Patty, wait, I'm sorry. And some passing scaffolders gave him very weird looks indeed. After work, greedy Gary felt very glum, driving home in the pitch black, and more than a little worried about future visits from Kevin or Patty. A stream of befuddling questions raced through his mind. Can ghosts take revenge? Can they hurt or even kill someone? What will happen if I eat pork or beef again? His head felt fit to burst from all this thinking and conflicting feelings, and his heart ached with guilt and shame. He wasn't proud to be the biggest meat eater in the world anymore. He wanted to be greedy Gary, no longer. He just wanted to be Gary, and to live and eat normally, without causing all this pain and destruction. And then his stomach rumbled again, as if on cue to test his resolve, just as he passed his favorite fried chicken shop. "Perfect. No red meat," said Gary, as he parked up outside. "Greedy Gary, my very best customer," called out the chicken shop man. "Usual, is it?" Gary considered the menu carefully. "Just one super-size bone lickin' bucket today, please. I'm on a diet. Good for you, my friend. And great choice. Chicken is so healthy." Gary climbed back into his van and placed the 20 bits of battered bird on the passenger seat. Pulling back onto the road, he reached across with a greedy hand. "Wouldn't do that if I were you, Squawk," said a screechy voice beside him. Gary's heart sunk, and his chins trembled faster than ever. Stood atop that mountain of deep-fried food was a rather angry-looking see-through hen. Gary couldn't speak, so the chicken did. "I'm prisoner 1,000,005. The ghost of dinners yet to come, Squawk. And I'm here to show you the error of your ways." This bird had read Kevin and Patty's reports on Gary. The time for being nice was over, so she clicked her beak and transported him to the hell she knew all too well. Gary screamed, or rather squawked. Countless chickens and their poo surrounded him. The awful din and stench was overwhelming. He seemed rather small as well, or these hens were human-sized. His vision was weird and intense. Bright colors flooded his mind from every angle. The great mass of birds crushed and pecked him, each fighting for space and air. He looked down at his own spindly chicken feet and let out the most terrifying squawk. He couldn't talk. He couldn't breathe. Then one big old bird bundled him over, and another fell full onto his leg. Crack! Gary the chicken squawked in agony and knew this was the end for him. This was the animal ghost's payback. Then the frightful vision faded away, and greedy Gary was back in his digger, and human once more. He felt his sweating face and leg. No beak, no break. It was just a dream. A vision. Where was that? He said to the fierce-looking ghost of dinners yet to come. A nearby intensive chicken meat factory. 1 year from now, after you and your workmates have finished building it. The color from Gary's face drained, and he wept giant tears of shame. Please, oh gracious ghost of dinners yet to come, please give me another chance. I'll stop working there. I'll make them all stop. I will. And, said the ghostly hen. I'll stop eating meat, I promise. I swear it on my life. The ghost of dinners yet to come smiled, just a little. You had better keep those promises, Gary. We will be watching, Squawk. And then she vanished. Gary threw the super-size bone-lickin' bucket in the nearest bin and drove home as quickly as he could. Greedy Gary breathed an enormous sigh of relief as he opened his front door. He couldn't wait for a big hug from his lovely wife. "Oh, hello, love," called Stacy. "I've got your favorite for dinner. 4 lamb doner kebabs, no salad." Gary screamed and ran away as fast as he could. He hadn't sprinted since he was a young boy, but the fear propelled him on. His heart pounded, his legs throbbed, but on he ran down his street, all the way to the corner shop. And there, in that moment, Gary did something he'd never done before in his whole life. He brought some vegetables. Well, a tin of baked beans. But we've all got to start somewhere. Drawing a blank. I am freaking out. How can I explain this? I'm in a full-blown, "It's a Wonderful Life" scenario here, but in reverse. I'm not seeing what the world would look like if I had never been born. I'm seeing the world where I was born. But the joke's on me. You know, like when a guy walks up to you and addresses you by name, and you've got no idea who he is. Now, you're damned if you do, and damned if you don't, right? Say, "Who are you again?" And you've offended the guy. Greet him like an old buddy, and he's going to expect you to comment on your shared past. I mean, clearly, you've met him before, and he remembers that meeting. He knows who you are, but you don't know him from Adam. Now, let's take that lovely little conundrum and grow that to the size of a galaxy. And maybe you'll begin to get an idea of what I'm dealing with here. For me, it's everyone and everything. My mind has completely drawn a blank. Taking inventory. I'm in the student center. This is the College of New Jersey. It doesn't look familiar, but there's a sign by the bookstore that gives away the setting. There's an Introduction to Psychology textbook in my hands. A flat screen with a list of rooms for final exams is on the brick wall by the bookstore. So, it is exam season. I have a psychology class, and it's freezing outside. I'm wearing a full-length pea coat, a black one, with those big buttons, lapels, and an extended collar, indicating it is December. I'm a man in my early 20s, judging by the reflection staring back at me from the window of the bookstore. And I'm well put together, if I do say so myself. Harry, did you bone up on Professor Panarella's legendary hypotheticals? A voice behind me says. So, judging by this, I'm Harry. Whoever the hell that is. Turning, I see a prim, bleary-eyed blonde with blue eyes, bangs, and a sorority sweatshirt, clutching a large metal coffee travel tumbler to her chest. The sweater has the name Penny written on it in block letters, so I'm guessing she's Penny. I'm kind of at a loss, to be honest, I say. Shit, Harry. Again? I know you are kind of a prodigy, but this is Panarella we're talking about. He's got a reputation for failing students who are unprepared. You can't just wing this one. Well, this is confidence inspiring. Where do ideas come from? Where do memories reside? Where does your mind go when it wanders? Where would one go to track it down again? These are not matters of metaphysical concern. These are life and death issues. I mean, I'm royally screwed here. Penny provides me with a clue. I mean, out of everyone, I'd think you'd be ready for the exam. And why is that, Penny? I ask, really wanting to know. Because you are his research assistant, silly, she says with a giggle. Now, I'm wondering what kind of relationship I have with this girl. She's giggling, twirling her hair, giving me a familiar look. There might be something going on between us. I'll come back to that. There are more immediate concerns. Oh, what research would that be? I say, with a playful affect, as if hunting for praise. Oh, you know, workaday stuff. Expanding on the theories of William James, the very father of psychology. Taking up the baton and puzzling out the mysteries of perception. Just real-world proof of the tenuous link between conscious awareness and behavior. The research study the two of you published, providing empirical evidence that conscious awareness or attention is absent nearly half the time, giving sway to automatic processing. And attention only comes into the picture when sleepwalking through common behaviors becomes too challenging. Wow. This girl has got it bad. She has, like, a dossier of my accomplishments. Huh? I say, for lack of a more appropriate grunt to express the tangled ball of emotions that her little speech has brought to the surface. But she has me thinking, by her math, I'm literally the most consciously aware person on the planet, since automatic processing isn't going to do shit for you if you don't even know who you are. I attempt to draw her out with aplomb, asking, which study was that again? The driving study, where you guys put sensors on people's heads while driving and determined that their attention was completely absent, gone, their minds wandering, only being called back when something unexpected happened on the road that required their full attention. Zopon, you're saying that attention is a spectrum, that our minds are here and there, wandering off in space, then returning only when needed? I ask. Well, that was your thesis, she said, chewing on a Bic pen. You feeling okay, Harry? She asks. Not remotely, I say. Can we sit down? Sure, honey. We've got a few hours before the exam, and Penny leads me into the Rathskeller, where I immediately order a beer. Budweiser? Big Mike asks. I call him that because it is on the name tag, not because I remember. Sure, I say, assuming he knows what I drink. Are you sure it's a good idea to drink right now? You've got an exam, Penny says. Under normal circumstances, I'd say no. But I need something. I don't feel well, I say. You look pale, she says. Your lips are blue, Harry. I hear an echo. Your lips are blue Harry, blue Harry, blue Harry. I see her bright blue, yes, floating away from me, her head inflating like a balloon. And this is when shit starts to get weird. The blood pounds in my ears. Breathe. My vision recedes, leaving me peering out at her through occluded fisheye lenses. The acidic cringe of bile rises in my throat. Just breathe. A cold sweat drenches my forehead. Deep breaths now, Harry. My shoulders writhe with spasms, and the back of my head burns like it is resting on a literal furnace. The shimmer of the sensation running along the temples to the front of my head. And somewhere inside, I know that I can't stop it. I have to let this play out. It is that feeling when something bad is happening, where you try to go somewhere else, distance yourself from it, float away, but you can't stop it. And then the fun begins. The rushing dizziness, like the feeling of sucking down helium. The whomp, whomp, whomp of the electricity sputtering out. The weakness of my arms dangling like weightless feathers by my sides. Somehow, I know that this is a conditioned physiological response. I know that everything is okay, but I don't believe it for a second. I dive into a pool of cold water. Tendrils of icy cold envelope my raw skin, as if the clothes have been cut off of me, leaving me naked, every nerve singing. The rush of movement, though still perched on the stool. The loss of place and time. Remember to breathe. Feels like hands are firmly pressing down on my neck, choking out my life's breath. I gasp for air, only catching crumbs of a breath. From the corner of my eye, something materializes out of the wooden flooring of the Rathskeller. It is in the shadows of the stools. They lengthen and enlarge, running away toward the walls, and then snap back and pulse into 3 dimensions, and rise from the floor like cloaked assassins, their voices a droning electric hum, accented by mirthful screeches. 3 of them converge on me, slowly shuddering forth from the dust and jazztain of the bar, shadows trailing behind their morbid forms like capes, malintentioned intruders from the realm of demons. Only I can see them. They are coming only for me. They are coming. They are coming quickly, almost upon me. I stumble backward, tipping over the stool, straddle my feet to break my fall, and crash to my backside. A violent flurry of sobs and wailing. My hands flail in front of me to keep them away as I kick my feet, one at a time, kicking myself back to the wall. I tuck in my knees and grip them in a desperate hug, screaming in terror as I wait for them to get me, which they do. it all goes black. Harry, 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 someone says. Slap. Ow, slap. Whoa! I shake my eyes open. It's a man, slapping me in the face. He's got a stubbly beard growing in, a round face with a protruding muzzle like a bear. I'd say he's either Italian or Polish. It's me, Professor Panarella. Are you back with us? He asks. How long was I out? I ask. About 15 minutes, he says, and I see Penny standing behind him, arms crossed, tapping a foot, looking very worried about me. Professor, there's a problem. I can't remember anything. Exactly. How'd you know? Penny told me, but it makes perfect sense. What? Why is that? Just lay back. Don't move. We've got to get you to the hospital. 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 Ha! Spit all. The world whomps and pulses, and my eyes close. And then I am back, sitting up in the hospital bed. Panarella is there. Penny is there, asleep in a chair, with her legs up on a table. The white curtain is drawn back. The hospital bed is perched up so that I am looking forward in a seated position. Panarella approaches me with a syringe and injects it into my arm. I put up my other hand to protest, but I am so drained of energy. I just go with it. This is what you get for playing God, Harry, he says. Who do you think you are, goddamn Jonas Salk? Panarella asks. Wait, are you saying that I did this to myself? I ask. Relevance, impartiality, welfare, and consent. Ethical canons of the research scientist. Remember those? He asks. Oddly, I think I do, I say. But I haven't the faintest idea why. Do no harm. Ever heard of that? Least of all to yourself. My God, Harry, what the fuck have you done this time? I was kind of hoping you would tell me. Jesus, Harry. We were testing the serum on hamsters. We were nowhere near ready for human trials. Serum? Up-fattening serum. Harry. A bridge to oblivion. The zombie anesthetic. A drug to separate awareness from perception. It was a breakthrough. But who knows what goes on in the mind of a hamster? It barely has a sense of self. Its whole life is almost entirely automatic processing. Whoa, Doc. Slow down. Help me out with this. Give me one of your famous hypotheticals, like Penny was telling me about. Okay. How do I explain this? You. What you call you is really a composite, a relationship, a master-servant relationship, like a dog and its master. The dog is your awareness, and what you call you, your perception, your selfhood, your experience of being you, is like the master. The thinking awareness, the automatic processing, is like the dog. I'm not sure I'm following you, Professor. I'm not talking to you right now. You are gone. All that is left is your awareness. The dog waiting at the door for its master to return. That's why you can't remember anything. Because you aren't here. We don't know where you have gone or how to get you back. Then where am I? I ask. I have no fucking idea, Harry. We've only just started these experiments. But you decided to use yourself as a human guinea pig. Sounds serious, Doc, I said. You, as we understand it, is really a community of yous. There's your bodily self, your perspectival self, your volitional self, your narrative self, and your social self. Each a mix of awareness and perception, each a compound of master and servant. And your unified self has been pulled apart into pure awareness. Unless we can get you back. Tell me about the driving experiment. The driving study was an experiment where we studied the brains of people experiencing the feeling one gets that they don't remember the drive home. We proved it was real, Harry. They don't remember the drive home because they weren't there. It is the functional equivalent of sleepwalking, proceeding entirely through automatic processing, like a computer carrying out a program. So it's possible that jarring a person out of automatic processing is the trigger that brings their perception, the master, the you, back into the game. I don't know, Harry, Panarella said, sitting back in the chair next to Penny, rousing her. Penny yawned and wiped her eyes. Penny smiled at me and said, "You're back." She rushed over and gave me a wet kiss on the lips, saying, "You had us worried, babe." And then an idea struck. "Professor, is there a treadmill in this place?" A few minutes later, the neurologist hooked up electrodes to my head. I stepped up on the platform of the treadmill. "Are you ready, Professor?" I asked. "This is insane," he said. "Well, can't hurt to give it a shot. Now remember, I'm going to go on running at a steady pace. I'm going to listen to some music. And I'll be blindfolded. We're going to keep it going like that for 10 minutes or so. Then, without any warning, stop the treadmill. I'll have to deal with the sudden shift in velocity. I'll be pulled out of automatic processing. I'll have to come home, and the treadmill starts whirring. My sneakers are connecting to the mat of the treadmill, clicking along, a somnambulant, reflexive cadence, a steady drumming. The music in the headphones is at 150 BPM. I breathe rhythmically. I focus on my stride, the autonomous swinging of my arms, the automatic recoil of my hamstrings, the feeling of flying laterally. My mind wanders. Will I like my life with Penny? Will I be happy with the results of my research position with Panarella? Do I like myself? Why did I take the fattening serum? Was it a mistake? Was it on purpose? Was there some reason I wanted to free my consciousness from my present awareness? Had I discovered something about existence that terrified me? I heard a sound like breaking car tires, the skidding of rubber on rubber. I felt the traction of the treadmill jolt me forward. My hands reached out. The blindfold was pulled off. My eyes scanned, reaching for the handholds. And in a whoosh, I came back to myself. Or was it? It was me. The master had come to the door. Only the dog wasn't wagging his tail and looking up and licking his face. The dog was barking ferociously, as if an intruder had entered the home. Penny said, "Is it you, babe?" Professor Panarella looked up hopefully. "Harry, are you back?" I looked at these strangers. I looked down at my young body, and I looked at my vitals on the screen of the monitor. How long had I been in a coma? Where was that useless body being kept in this hospital, I thought? And who was Harry? All I knew is I was free. Free at last. Harry can't come to the phone right now, I thought with a chuckle. "What's so funny?" Penny says. "Oh, nothing," I say. "You wouldn't understand."